Hello and welcome. Thank you for clicking on this video to watch. I'm hoping that you get a lot out of it. I know I'm making a bold statement, but I'm going to back it up. If you like it, you want to check out other things, if you want to know a little bit more about this, I have longer versions of this. This is the extra short version because I know people don't have time to be on long videos. I get it. So, and I like to talk. I just got a lot to share. So check out my channel. Check out some of the other videos. I am amazed by the number of views I've had in a short time. You know, people see the world's broken and they want to know what God says because people are getting worried and thinking, oh, wow, are we there yet? I think we are, or we're not sure. And one of the first things that people think, oh, we don't have another 7 years. It might be this year. If I'm saying 2022 or wait till 2029, a lot of people, we don't have another 7 years. Look at this, look at that. Guess what? People were saying that 7 years ago. People were saying that 14 years ago. I've been following prophecy for 15 years, and everybody keeps saying, oh, it's got to be this year because we can't go any longer. And I've heard that for a long time. So I'm not saying this has to happen, but I do believe I'm right on this, and I'll explain why. We're going to be looking at weeks of years. But let's first go to 1 Thessalonians 5. And there's this one thing that I want to bring to your attention. This is, 1 Thessalonians 4, the tail end of 1 Thessalonians 4 into the beginning of 1 Thessalonians 5, huge rapture verses. Everybody looks at it. A lot of people try to just use this. You can't understand this without understanding the prophets in the Old Testament. You just can't. But anyhow, I'm in Timothy. I'm not there yet. Sorry about that. Here we go. 1 Thessalonians 5:1. But concerning the times and the seasons, brethren, you have no need I should write to you. That word seasons there, the first time the word seasons appears in the Bible is Genesis 1:1. The sun and the moon are for signs and seasons, days and years. If you look it up in the Hebrew, that word seasons is moed. Those are the Jewish feast days. But if you look up the Jewish feast days in Leviticus 23, they're not Jewish. These are the feast days of the Lord. They are my feast days, and they'd be proclaimed as a holy convocation. You look up the definition of the word feast days, and it's appointed time, and appointed place, and appointed meeting. If you don't get this, that God has appointments, and Christ was crucified on Passover, his body was in the grave during the Feast of Unleavened Bread, he arose on the Feast of First Fruits, and the Holy Spirit came down on Shavuot, which is Pentecost. He's going to fulfill all the fall feast days. If you don't get that, you're missing it. You got to go back and you got to study it. It's going to open up your eyes. Oh my goodness. They're like Rosh Hashanah. There's like 10 plus different names for it. They all scream rapture. It's the day no man knows the day or the hour. It's the day for the last trump. And a lot of people, I can't tell you how many people scream at me. I'm talking about something prophetically. And nobody knows the day or the hour. Nobody knows the day or the hour. What? Nobody knows the day or the hour. It's like they only know that. And it's just like, oh, give me a break. Like, you don't think I've seen that before? Anyhow, if you're that person, go check out some other videos. Go do your homework. This may not be the video for you. Check out the longer version because you'll get a lot more explanation. All right. So what I'm going to talk about is the Shemitah years. Bottom line, it's a week of years, and God has a calendar, and tribulation is a week of years. You can't start a week at the beginning of the week. Excuse me, you can't start the middle of the week. You've got to start the beginning of the week. You don't start a week on Tuesday. No, you start on Sunday. All right? If you can figure out when those weeks are and what God's calendar is, you've nailed down when tribulation can happen. And I wanted to do this for years. I just never did until one verse clicked. A verse I'd read over and over and over. And then it clicked. Okay, I heard somebody say this, and it set off light bulbs. But before we get there, we're going to go a couple of places first. All right. And I'm going to get there. We're going to Daniel 9. If you got your Bible open, just go to Daniel 9. Do you remember when Peter came to Jesus and said, Lord, how many times do I have to forgive somebody? 7 times? I guess there was somebody he's forgiven a bunch of times and he's tired of doing it. And Yeshua had said, no, not 7 times. I tell you 7 times 70. That's 490. That's a lot of times. There's so much depth to that. Yes, we are to forgive and forgive and forgive. Forgiving doesn't mean putting yourself in a place to get hurt. You forgive for yourself. Because if you don't forgive, you get bitter. It's just not good. But anyhow, and there's nothing wrong with saying that. Just means you forgive a lot. But there's so much deeper meaning into it. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. They didn't forgive stuff. They didn't give the land a rest. And it was prophesied well beforehand that if they didn't do it, that they were going to not do it, and they were going to end up taken away somewhere. Actually, the first reference or the prophecy about this is in Deuteronomy. And actually, Deuteronomy also has a reference to the this version at 70 AD as well. God told them ahead of time, if you don't obey my commands, this is what's going to happen. Okay, so they missed 7 Shemitah years, weeks of years, 7 times 70. They missed 70 of them, 7 times 70. Now let's go to Daniel. Look at Daniel. He should already be there, Daniel 9, and starting in verse 20. I'm not going to skip down, I'm sorry. Verse 24. 70 weeks are determined for your people and your holy city. This is 70 weeks of years, 70 times 7. This is God's way of forgiving the Jewish people, okay? And understand that we only have salvation because we are grafted in. We're the wild olive branch grafted into a tree. Read that. A lot of people think, oh, the new covenant. Yeah, no. The new covenant is given to Israel and Judea. And it's the same law that's going to be put in our head and our hearts. But most people say, no, the new covenant got rid of all that stuff. Garbage. There's a video on that on my channel. Anyhow, 70 weeks. Okay, so this is the restoration for the 70 years that there's 70 times the 70 years they missed the Shemitah year. Okay, so these are weeks of years, and God's got a calendar. I've got videos on that. Go back and look. And we go down to Daniel 9:27, and this is the verse that everybody gets. For he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. And in the middle of the week, he shall bring an end to the sacrifice and offering. And on the wing of the abominations, there shall be one who makes desolate, even until the consummation which is determined is poured out on the desolate. Okay, this is tribulation. Okay, a lot of people don't like the word tribulation. Okay, they want to say the 70th week of Daniel. Actually, the correct name here is the time of Jacob's troubles. That would be the correct name. I'm good with tribulation. I'm good with Daniel's 70th week. I don't get hung up on little things like that. If we could figure out what year this starts, because it can't start in the middle of a week. If we could nail down God's calendar, and yes, he has a calendar and he's going to do it. That's how he told us in, Isaiah 46:10, that I proclaim the end from the beginning. Okay, he told us the end from the beginning. Amos 3:7, I do nothing without telling my prophets, the servants first. So you think the rapture is just some mysterious thing that's going to happen? Nobody knows the day or the hour when it happens? That's not true. He told us Rosh Hashanah. Paul even gave us the hour, a twinkling of an eye. Look it up. It's an idiom for evening twilight. I'm serious. If you don't understand this stuff, you don't get it. Anyhow, so for years, I've wanted to try to nail down, when is it? When does that week start? Because that'll give you a 7-year period that you know it's got to start at the beginning of that 7-year period, or you got to wait to the next one. It wasn't until a couple weeks ago I heard somebody say, go back to verse 26. And after 62 weeks, the Messiah shall be cut off. Okay, and this is a 7 weeks and then 62 weeks. And it's from the going forth of the order to rebuild the temple, to restore and build Jerusalem. They should have been able to calculate when Yeshua was going to be born and when he was going to be there. Actually, they did. That's why when John was baptizing, all the Pharisees were there and the sages. They were looking to see if the Messiah had come. They missed it because they thought that he would be like them. Actually, they didn't like him correcting them. So anyhow, after 62 weeks, ooh, that's the next year. See, it's after a 7. If you're going to go after the 7, think about a calendar and a week of years on a calendar, or week of days on a calendar, and just think that they're years. If it's after that week, it's going to be the first year on the next week of years. Easy to figure it out if you know what year Yeshua was born. See, and that gets to be a problem. I know most of the churches talk about 33 AD. That's wrong. Yeshua, you have to know what day of the week. If you get the day that he's crucified, okay, this we're looking at when he was crucified, when he was cut off. If you get the day that he was crucified, you can figure out what year it was. That's easy. As long as you know that the day started the day starts at sunset. It's not our calendar. We're on a pagan calendar that Rome instituted. A lot of the stuff the church is doing is pagan stuff that Rome instituted. Okay, that's not what we're talking about. All right, so he's crucified. The biggest clue is he said that the sign of Jonah, he will be in the grave for 3 days and 3 nights. Everybody thinks he's crucified on a Friday because they got to get the body off the cross before the Sabbath. But 3 days and 3 nights, you cannot get that from Friday to Sunday. And we know it's a Sunday because he was fulfilling first fruits. And if you look at first fruits, it is always the day after the Sabbath, the weekly Sabbath. So it's always a Sunday. Okay, here's the issue. He's crucified on Passover. The next day starts the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is a Sabbath. Yes, the Jewish calendar, you got weekly Sabbath. Some of your high holy days are Sabbaths, and the Shemitah year is a Sabbath. It's a Sabbath all year long. You don't know this if you don't know God's calendar. So it doesn't matter what week of the week he's crucified on. If he's crucified on Passover, the next day is a Sabbath. You get me? All right. 3 days and 3 nights, that means Thursday. I know people saying, well, it could have been Wednesday. In order to do 3 days and 3 nights, you would have, they're like Wednesday evening. Well, as soon as it turns dark, actually, when you see 2 stars of medium strength, it's now Thursday. The other thing is the lamb would be brought into the temple for 4 days to make sure that it was flawless and without blemish. Yeshua came in on Sunday, was there for 4 days, got questioned by anybody that was anybody. In fact, he probably got questioned by somebody that was nobody, okay? And he was being checked to make sure there were no blemishes. And they wouldn't ask him any more questions because he was just embarrassing them. Go back and read it. It's funny. See, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 4 days, crucified Thursday. It fits. That'd be 30 AD. Now you do the math, and you're not doing sevens because then you have a year of Jubilee. So after 7, Leviticus 25, look it up. After 7 sets of 7 years, you declare a year of Jubilee. A lot of the Jews will do a 49-year calendar or 49-year sets of Jubilees, and it's because some rabbi somewhere said that's what you're supposed to do. And when I was asking somebody about it, I asked them, I said, well, Leviticus makes it pretty clear. And they said, oh, well, you can't understand the Bible or the Tanakh, Old Testament, without looking at the rabbinical teachings. Yeah, I can. That's the commandments of men. Jesus spoke about it. Isaiah prophesies about it. That ain't good. It's a 50-year period. So if you do the 50s from 30 AD, you don't need to be a math major. 50 times 50 is 100. Count hundreds. It's going to take you to 2030. But Yeshua was crucified in the spring. That year started on Rosh Hashanah in the fall. So if you're trying to figure out the beginning of tribulation, the time that Yeshua comes back, it's got to be at Rosh Hashanah. Now, I've heard a lot of talk lately, and maybe this has been around for a while, it's just been real prevalent, that there could be a gap, a big gap. Now, the rapture has to happen before tribulation, but there could be a gap. It could be months. No, there can't. 10 days tops, and I don't even agree with that. And the reason I say that is because tribulation is a week of years. You got to start at the beginning of that week, the beginning of the year, Rosh Hashanah. Okay. And Yeshua's crucified. Yeshua comes back for the rapture. We meet up in the clouds on Rosh Hashanah. There's no gap. If you do a 2-week gap, then it's not a week of years, because you're starting it late. You got to start at the beginning of the week of years. All right. So it takes you to 2030. But again, Rosh Hashanah is in the fall. So that's 2029. Subtract 7, 2022. It's got to be 2022 to start or 2029 to start. Can't happen in between. And I know a lot of people are thinking it can't get much worse. Oh, yeah, it can. It can get a whole lot worse before we go. You look at birth pains. Think about a woman who's having a child. I remember there was a time my wife saying that she felt like she was carrying this heavy bag of groceries and just couldn't put it down. And the pains and whatever, but that didn't mean we were having the baby tomorrow. We had to wait. Anyhow, again, if you like my channel, you like my teachings, click on me, subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Share this. People need to know. Get the word out. And this is not to freak anybody out or whatever. It should encourage believers to be sharing Yeshua, sharing Jesus. Clock's ticking, running out of time. Got to have Yeshua. Got to share Yeshua. There is nothing else that matters in this day. God bless you, and Maranatha.